everyone, and welcome to another episode of 1923 Main Street.
Home of the Disney Travel Podcast with the latest Disney travel news. We are your hosts.
I am Mike Bellabraddock.
And I'm Amelia Bellabraddock. And today, more breaking news about the future of Disney's expansions.
Yes, it's been a very interesting couple of weeks. And in the last episode, if you listened, episode 195, we discussed the potential future developments for the new Disneyland park. And as if right on cue, Bob Iger and Disney executives shared a little more this week about the company's future park investments, not only Disneyland and Disney World, but around the globe. And sort of in their trademark style, they said a whole bunch of stuff and they didn't really say much at all when it comes to details.
Shocker.
Yeah, so here's what we know and what it might mean for you.
So, the Disney company is working on plans to increase the timing and investments in, parks, experiences, and products globally. So, they're planning on nearly doubling the spending over the next 10 years to about $60 billion.
Yeah, and that includes
the
both.
Figure.
Yeah, that's both the American parks and parks around the globe, and even Disney Cruise Line. And they didn't mention DVC.
I was not to mention DVC.
But then they did. So Bob Iger and Josh D'Amaro, who are the, key executives involved, obviously CEO, and D'Amaro is the Parks Experiences and Products Chairman, they met with Wall Street analysts. So that's when they were going over all this information. And they talked about how there's even more Disney stories to come to life, which is true, but
it's not unlike Destination D23. The presentation was a lot of talking with, little detail.
Yeah. So, yeah, of course they plan to fuel their growth with their stories. I mean, that would make sense. And they said they're going to focus on ones that haven't had a big presence so far in the parks, which also makes sense. I mean, you're not going to do well, I guess you could do a second Star Wars land. But that's not the plan.
So we know that, Frozen-themed lands are coming to Hong Kong Disneyland, Walt Disney Studios Park in Paris, and Tokyo Disney Resort, and that a Zootopia-themed land is coming to Shanghai Disney. But Disney has very specifically stated that it will explore more characters and franchises, including some that they've never done before.
Yeah, here's what Josh D'Amaro said exactly. Here's his quote. "We have a wealth of untapped stories to bring to life across our business. Frozen, one of the most successful and popular animated franchises of all time, could have a presence at the Disneyland Resort. Wakanda has yet to be brought to life. The world of Coco is just waiting to be explored. There's a lot of storytelling opportunity." Yeah. So everybody jumped on the bandwagon and said, hey, we're getting Frozen at Disneyland.
Well, that's interesting because they had previously hinted at Coco last year at D23, and now there's some more hinting. So it sounds like that is in the works because originally it was supposed to be, behind Big Thunder, but now maybe we'll see it elsewhere.
Yeah, as we noted last week, I think Coco disappeared altogether, remember? They had originally, this is where it gets sort of silly. So Destination D23 2022, they said Coco, Villains, and Encanto were going to be behind Big Thunder Mountain. This year, they talked about behind Big Thunder Mountain, but mentioned nothing specifically. Then they mentioned Encanto at Animal Kingdom and not Coco at all, or Villains for that matter. Now we have potentially Coco, Frozen, Zootopia, Disneyland. So it's getting very, very confusing. And it leads to the question, I have to say right now before we go further, there was this huge disclaimer that came along with this news release that basically said, hey, this is all just sort of speculation.
Yeah, they got to cover their bases legally.
So we might do none of this, that sort of thing. We're spending $60 billion around the world, but we don't really know what it's going to be yet. So
maybe we're just giving all our staff raises. Who knows?
So it's kind of funny. I mean, really, who knows what's coming to at least we know a park is being built at Disneyland, I guess. And then there was sort of a shot at Universal.
Well, we can't confirm, but Josh D'Amaro did explicitly state, we stand alone when it comes to scale, and while our scale is impressive, we have no shortage of space or regions in the world in which to tell stories. So Disney Parks has over 1,000 acres of land with possible future development to expand theme park space across existing sites. So that's the equivalent of about 7 new Disneyland parks.
Yeah, and that's around the globe.
So lots to do.
But it did strike me as, we stand alone. Well, who's standing next to you a distant second, I guess, because there's really no global universal. I mean, they sort of fight on the turf in the U.S., but they certainly don't have a global footprint. So, yeah, he's trying to make a point. They have 1,000 acres of land to do. So then they got into some stuff, which this is what I think is the most interesting. And if you're listening and you're a Disney traveler, might concern you if it's not addressed properly.
I think it's interesting that the type of things that they're building are probably playing into this. Because think about it, if you've never gone to Disney and now your favorite movie has this land, now you want to go.
Here's what they said. Their stats show that for every park visitor today, so that's you listeners and us, presumably, there are 10 other Disney consumers who've never been to a Disney park at all. So their whole strategy is to get those other 10 people to start visiting Disney parks. Yeah. And that equals how many people?
700 million.
Now, that's great. 700 million
Around
more.
a tenth of the entire global population, so just for perspective.
Even if they get half of that, that's a lot of people coming into Disney parks that you may feel are getting crowded now. Not to mention hotel space and so on and so forth.
So that's about 100 million people per, Disney area, like World, Land, Shanghai, whatever. That's about 100 million people per little hub, just to put that in perspective.
Extra.
Yeah. Additional 100 million people.
So
they've already got a bunch.
If you're a Disney executive, this is awesome, right? This sounds great. You want those people who've never been to a park to start going to parks, but if you're like us or other Disney travelers, it could become a real nightmare because it's hard to navigate parks sometimes already when they're so overcrowded. So how they do this is really critical. And I mean, building new parks, obviously, not only is it good, like you said, to get people in, but also to spread out the crowds. So they did say, ultimately, what's most important to us is the relationship we have with every guest. Well, that relationship could turn sour.
The relationship you have with every guest and their bank account.
Yeah, if you don't manage the flow. So Josh Tomorrow said guests can spend a day with us at the parks, a week on a cruise, or the rest of their lives with us through Disney Vacation Club, or till your contract ends.
What an exciting future that will be.
So really, it's great. Obviously, great news, building new stuff. We all want that. But they keep talking about building new stuff, but we have to ensure it's just like when they put in new resorts, like we're talking about around, we'll get to that in a second, but new hotel rooms, more people, but no more room in the parks. So you've got to balance.
Yeah, they're in desperate need of major new park space. So what Disney needs to consider is that every guest includes existing loyal Disney travelers. So having enough hotel space is critical to make this vision work, because they didn't exactly mention hotels, but they did talk about DVC, which is Disney Vacation Club. So the DVC expansion strategy that they've mentioned is currently to have 1,000 new keys, they've called it. So,
I like this. I haven't heard this before. So they call it keys, like which are rooms. So we're adding more keys.
These are just DVC rooms.
Yeah, we're adding more keys, like the keys to the kingdom and stuff. So I sort of like how they call them keys.
Coming fairly soon, by the end of 2024,
so 1,000
they've said.
new DVC rooms.
Yeah, sounds like a lot more Holiday Inns are going to be going up. But that's a lot of new DVC members, because 340 DVC rooms came online with the opening of the DVC Disneyland Hotel in September, and now there will be approximately 360 for Wilderness Cabins opening next year, plus 270 new Polynesian villas, lucky us, in 2024. So it seems that every guest becoming a DVC member is kind of their key strategy.
Yeah, they have a definite strategy. They didn't talk about any hotels really at all. All
Well,
they
I don't
talked
think
about,
they like hotel guests.
and if you didn't know, apparently when the cabins are coming online, I think we knew 2024, but the Holiday Inn, the Polynesian villas, all that stuff is supposed to open next year, which is good to get construction done and over with, I guess, as much as I don't love the sort of way it stands out. But anyway, that's 1,000 new DVC rooms basically in a year. That's 1,000 more DVC members.
I'm so confused as to their plan.
Well, their plan definitely is they want every Disney guest
want
to be
bigger
a
and
DVC
better.
member. You know, it's almost like Disney is becoming, the whole of Disney travel is becoming DVC.
Well, they would love that.
I mean, it's not, but that's,
It's
I
just,
felt that was the vision when I was reading all this stuff.
I mean, I know they're saying 700 million and 1,000 is obviously not a number of that size, but it's just interesting. Do they expect people to go from, just consuming the movies at home, dressing up as a princess for Halloween, whatever, being a casual fan in suburban Iowa, to now being a DVC member? Is that the jump that they expect people to take?
Well, I think they want to work it step by step. So, at the end of the day, we're dissecting this as we do on this show because that's why you listen. But also, really, you can just step back and say, forget about all this stuff. I'm just looking forward to having a new park to go to. And maybe that's the easiest way to look at this. We're going to get some new stuff at Disney World. We're going to get some new stuff at Disneyland even sooner. And then we're hoping they manage all of the other things in lockstep, not even to mention bringing in that new, 700 million new people. Look at how complicated it is to book Disney vacations. So they've really got to streamline their tech and booking of lightning lanes and all this sort of stuff.
They've got to figure that out.
Because a lot of the current 1 in 10 are sort of experienced. Now you want to bring in 10 times that number, and it's going to be a little overwhelming. So lots of work to do for the executives. Love that they have a vision. Don't love that it's a little foggy every time they talk about it, but eventually something will become set in stone when they start building, I guess. And we'll, of course, report on it then. But, at least there seems to be continuing talk about all this new building, which is a good thing in a way.
Well, I'm just hoping this will motivate them to make some new stories, because eventually they're going to have to make new stories if they keep wanting to build and build on. They can't build the same land everywhere if all they make is sequels. So
yeah, I hope they mix it up. And for years and years,
this is motivating Disney. We would
people
like
have
some new
been
stories.
complaining that Disney has not been doing anything new in their parks and resorts. So it sounds like a real growth spurt is on the horizon.
Yeah, and those people were me. So good job, Disney.
All right,
Good
there
job.
you go. The saga continues about what will happen where, even though there's just stuff happening. We'll see as it all plays out.
Next week we'll tell you that we had a personal interview with Bob Iger, and he told us all the plans.
Yeah, I don't think that even if we ever did, he still wouldn't tell us the plans.
Because I don't even think he knows fully.
Maybe they're not set in stone. We'll find out. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening and thanks for joining us. As always, follow along on social media at 1923 Main Street. We'll see you again next week with more news, maybe more park news. Who knows? And have a magical day.
Bye-bye.